doing? Good. Dan Christenson. I'm with PepsiCo. I lead our global public policy team based here in DC. Before we get into the regularly scheduled program, we would love to have this distinguished panel introduce themselves and particularly call out where you're from. So, Ryan, why don't we start with you?
Sure. My name's Ryan Vavroch. I'm from East Central Iowa, corn and soybean farmer. Farm with my wife and my two daughters who are in middle school and fourth grade, so they're as involved as they want to be. But been with SWAF for 4 or 5 years now, I believe, and just been a great experience so far.
I'm Pallin Turner, and I'm from Southwest Iowa, and I farm with my husband, and we've been farming on my grandparents' farm since 35 years for us, but it started in the early 40s. And I have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and we row crop and have cattle. And I've been 2 years now with the Soil and Water Conservation, and it's a great program.
Awesome. My name's Adam Kiel. I think what Dan's trying to get at is, I'm supposed to say I'm from Iowa as well. A bunch of Iowans up here on stage. I manage the Soil and Water Outcomes Fund based out of Ankeny, Iowa. I'm originally from Northeast Iowa. I grew up on a farm in that part of the state. My dad was a farmer until the mid-'80s, and then I think we all know what happened in the '80s. We no longer farm, but grew up on a farm and love the work that we do, and I'm glad I could bring some farmers out to share their stories with you all today.
Yep. And I grew up in Marshalltown, Iowa, so thanks for stealing my thunder, Adam. And I will not ask any more questions of you on this panel. I'm teasing. No, but I mean, top line, you got a panel of Iowans up here. We know what we're talking about, right? So when it comes to agriculture, that's the heartland. We have a lot of geographic diversity. We've got flat cornfields. We've got hilly cornfields. We've got flat soybean fields and hilly soybean fields. So you got a great panel here. And I just want to go back to where Jason left off and just thank you to JBS Agri-Pulse for letting us be a part of this. We really view our role as a part of a larger value chain. And, as a business, we spend a lot of time thinking about the front end of our supply chain, and that's our farmers, because we don't have business without farmers, right? So everything we do in terms of, bringing the delicious products that people know and love, Tostitos, Fritos, Doritos, all the Eatos, guys, right? It starts with corn that's grown in the ground by somebody who doesn't work for PepsiCo, right? Or you think about Lay's, or you think about Tostitos. I mean, it's real simple ingredients. It's a ear of corn, it is a potato, it is some oil, and some salt, right? Pretty straightforward, but it all starts with what's grown in the ground. So we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we make sure that our farmers can be successful, right? We want to keep farmers farming, and that's at the heart of how we think about transition to regenerative agriculture, sustainability, like whatever dimension you want to think about that across. It all starts with helping to support the farmers that are in our supply chain. So when we think about the SB COP work that we were, honored to be a part of, and what's coming up next month in Pallin, where I'll be, and it'll be very hot and humid there, which I'm not looking forward to, but it's just like, how do we make sure we bring the voice of the private sector, the voice of farmers to life? Because, at COP, it's a lot of governments getting together, and, to borrow Jason's language, we're thinking about frameworks, right? Like, what are the rules of the road? How should governments think about establishing rules that enable different things? But at the end of the day, that enablement, has to be done by somebody else, and that starts with farmers. So we really think about how we make that come to life simply. How do we lift up voices in the great work that farmers in our supply chain are doing? How do we lift up the great work that our implementing partners are doing? And so we were, when they approached and said, do you have the opportunity to sort of talk about this work and bring some great people together? We said, count us in. So thank you to Sarah, thank you to the team for giving us this opportunity. And we'll just dig right in. So Adam, would love to start with you. And, give us a little bit more background on SWAF just as an organization. Like, where did you get started? Why did you get into this work? And what does a great day look like for Adam Kiel? Like, you've you've closed the door on the pickup truck or whatever you drive. I don't even know what kind of car you drive. We've known each other for years, but I don't know what kind of car you drive. And you think to yourself, man, I knocked it out of the park. Like, what does that look like?
Well, I'll finish with that.
Yeah.
With that one. So the Soil and Water Outcomes Fund, or as Dan said, SWAF, we've been around for 6 years, and the reason that SWAF exists today is kind of my personal frustration with the scale of conservation implementation in the Midwest. And I've worked for local conservation districts. I've worked for state environmental agencies. Interacted with USDA on many grants and agreements. And in prior work, I was kind of frustrated in that, yes, we would make an impact at a scale, maybe a watershed scale or a county scale, but it seems like we just couldn't turn the needle up another level to where we were talking about hundreds of thousands of acres, millions of acres, and getting farmers engaged at scale. Additionally, I felt that conservation delivery through cost share incentive programs was kind of foreign to farmers, right? You guys think about markets, you respond to market signals. I wanted to start something that sent a signal to farmers that they could participate in something that the more they produced, and we think of environmental attributes as the thing you're producing, the more you produce, the more value there was, the more value opportunity there was. So we initially started with working around water quality outcomes in Iowa, and soon brought in greenhouse gas outcomes and sent those signals to farmers that if you produce, there's groups that value those outcomes. And that could be the likes of PepsiCo. It could also be a municipality, like the city of Cedar Rapids was one of our early water quality customers. And we were able to scale that from around 10,000 acres 5 years ago to I think last year we enrolled 1.2 million acres across 22 different states. So really significant growth, and at the heart of it is really trying to meet the farmers where they're at. They don't want to hear me talk about monitoring, reporting, and verification, and all of the acronyms that we use in agriculture and conservation. They just want to know, how can I participate and how can you get me signed up as fast as possible? And then what kind of support am I going to give you? So that's what I tried to do, is build a system that sent the signal that they could participate and that it would be a quick, simple, and easy process, and they would kind of meet them where they're at on their own farm. And I think we've accomplished that and built out many different partnerships along the way, and PepsiCo is a great partner. They're probably one of about 20 different corporate partners that currently support the work that we do.
That's great.
Oh, and I didn't answer what kind of truck I drive.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Ford F-150, America's most popular truck.
Yeah. The nice thing about this is that as soon as you have the mic, you say whatever you want to say. So it doesn't matter what I ask you. Yeah, I'm teasing.
Get ready. Here we go with the farmers.
Yeah. No, and this is what people really want to hear. So tell us a little bit more about your operations. Ben, why don't we start with you and sort of why you decided to work with SWAF in the first place? Yeah.
Okay, sorry. On our operation, we do a lot of minimum tillage, a lot of cover crops, things like that. We used to do, full-on tillage, a lot of iron, a lot of horsepower, a lot of fuel. And as times have changed, you do enough research, you think maybe there's a different way, right? And, these are things on our farm that we want to do. We always want to do what's right. And so does my neighbor and their neighbor and their neighbor. And that's going to be different for everybody. But, partnering with SWAF in particular here, we can get a little added benefit for things that we already want to do and maybe take a little more risk in trying a new practice. And, hopefully it comes out better on the other end, but it works out well for everybody. And then when you partner with, a larger corporation and it's beneficial on both sides, that's just capitalism, at its finest, really, so.
And we did too. We've been doing no-till and cover crops for a long time, but the last couple of years now, everything that we till, we don't till. We no-till, but we put cover crop on everything from all our corn ground, all our bean ground. We've done it now for the last 2 years, and I think it's a big deal. And it helps that they're helping us to do it. We're going to do it anyway, and we haven't really been getting a lot of help for doing it. for 30 years, and so it's really nice to get some help. It doesn't pay for it, but it really helps us out, and it is the right thing to do, like you said, and I feel good about it.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to just explore that line of thought with you since you brought it up. You say, well, it doesn't pay for it, but it helps. I mean, as a business owner, like, help us understand like how you think about that. I mean, we're a business, and if it doesn't make business sense, we don't do it, right? So from
Right.
your perspective, how does it make sense? Yeah.
Right. Go ahead. Yeah, it makes sense because like Ryan said, it's the right thing to do. It's going to be good for everyone, and the sustainability is everything. And if we want to be here in 10, 20, 30, another 100 years, we have to do that, because we won't be here. And I told Adam that if you hire someone to do it, it's $20 an acre. If you buy the seed, it's about that. You've got about $45 an acre in it. So that's what it costs to put rye. We usually do rye because then we can bale it if we want to feed it to our cattle, or we can burn it down and just then go right in and plant it. We don't do any other tillage on it. That's it. So it's expensive, but it's beneficial down the road. 10, 15 years, we've been doing it now a long time, and our bushels, I think, are as good as they could be. Even if we, like all the guys that are still tilling and not doing, and in our area, I think it's just totally sustainable to have 60 bushel beans, 180, 200 bushel corn. You're going to have that. We'll never have 300 bushel corn, but we wouldn't have that anyway. So to have that and be able to have the cover crops on there and less environmental impact.
Yeah, and we're Iowans, so we talk with our hands. So that's plus, there's more room. There's more people in this room than there is in my town. So bear with the nerves a little bit. But I believe you mentioned the word sustainable when you were up here, and that can mean 100 different things or something different for everyone in this room. But particularly in the use of cover crops, there is an upfront investment, and either you want to try it or you don't, or you're into it or you're not. You're not going to convince everybody that it's the right thing to do, but it's not about a one-year decision. It's about a multi-year impact. Rye, for example, is a grass that we plant out there to hold soil for erosion. Well, if we keep our soil, we keep our topsoil, we keep our fertility for next generations to come. And also what that rye does when it breaks down in the soil is it frees up nutrients that would otherwise be tied up that the crop can't even use. So, and I'm not trying to give an agronomy lesson, but it's more just the fact that there's a lot of hidden benefits that, we might spend 30, 40 bucks an acre each year. Do we see that back? Not directly, but, over the period of years, the idea is that you gain that back over time, 2, 3, 5 times over. But, to quantify it in 1 year it's not realistic. But, there again, as farmers, we speak in seasons and decades and generations. We're not talking about next week or next month. We have to look way beyond what we can even see to figure out where we're going, I guess.
Yeah. That's great perspective. And Adam, I'd like to turn it back to you. We talked a little bit about how both Pallin and Ryan think about sustainability, how it makes, business sense. And then, from where we sit, both in the public policy world and then just, I think, probably the sustainability world for the private sector, we really feel like we've run up against a scale problem, right? We have a lot of great producers. We need more of them. And how do we encourage, more companies to get in the boat with us? How do we encourage, governments to have the right type of enabling systems? I mean, what do you see as the biggest barriers to really scaling this work?
How long do we have?
Yeah. 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, I think obviously it comes at a cost, right? If we look at, what it would take us to do the entire state of Iowa, 30 some million acres, Our average payment to farmers was around $30 per acre. You heard the economics that it didn't even cover the cost of cover crops. We're talking about big dollar amounts to even cover a state like Iowa, and let alone the United States and globally. So the challenge that we oftentimes have is, how do we put together partnerships, whether it's between two companies in the value chain or with government? And those are very difficult conversations to have. And it could take years to work out a deal. And if we're going to scale, that can't be. We need to be able to be more nimble. We need to build those partnerships and have those endure time. These two don't want me to come to them and say, hey, I've got a one-year opportunity. You just heard Ryan talk about how we need to be in this for the long haul. So how do we build those either value chain partnerships or partnerships with government that don't come and go in a season, but endure time and have the financial ability to scale to meet the challenge that we have, which is significant in terms of acres and the cropland and the number of farmers that we have.
Yeah. What I heard you say was agility, right? And durability and simplicity, right?
Exactly.
So Pallin and Ryan, I'd like to come back to you guys. You got a lot of different choices of partners that you guys can work with to help offset the costs of cover crops or whatever it is. I mean, what made SWAF stand above the rest for you guys?
Well, for me, I usually watch things for a year or two before I even try anything, just to kind of see what's going to stick around. There are numerous corporations that have or are doing programs similar to this, but very different. What I liked about this one is because it was private. It's not tied to someone that I buy my seed from or someone that I buy my chemicals or fertilizer, whatever you want it to be. It's completely separate from all of those entities and separate from the USDA to a point. And I like that because, it's completely independent, and whatever we do, there's no strings attached, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and like he said, if we do the practices that they're asking, then they paid us. It was very simple, easy to sign up. A local girl actually works for them, Amanda Shetler is, and she went to school with my daughter. That's how we got involved. She came to visit with us, and it was word of mouth, and she sat at the kitchen table, and we were like, sounds pretty fair, cut and dried, simple. That's nice, not tons and tons of paperwork. And it's been very easy to work with someone that you know and talk to. I like that part of it a lot.
Trust, right?
Trust. Yeah, absolutely. So it was really a good deal, I think. And if we didn't do it, they didn't pay us. It wasn't like we had to tie up something that, could end up down the road, who knows. But they came out in the spring and looked at our cover crop and said, yep, you've done the things we asked. And we got 2 rounds of payments at 2 different times. And I thought that was fair and simple.
Yeah, fairness and simplicity. I definitely heard that from both of you. Adam, I'd love for you to reflect on, look, one of the reasons why we enjoy working with you guys is because of the priority you place on making sure farmers have a good client experience, right, for lack of a better term. So that simplicity. Talk about the ways that you bring that to life specifically in the work that SWAF does. And then, as you think about what good doesn't look like, how do you reflect on partners that just missed, what are the most common things they get wrong on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll start with kind of the program design question to make it simple for farmers. One thing you cannot do is put together a data platform or enrollment website and just expect farmers to come and sign up, right? I think we've all learned that lesson before. So we pride ourselves on having Amanda's of the world. You talked about Amanda. She's one of a number of team members that we have based across the Midwest who helps farmers enroll. They go sit at the kitchen table. They go and help get the data that's required to participate, help with contracts execution and those kind of things. So one is people, right? It's technical assistance. We hear about that a lot. We kind of think about technical assistants a little differently. We treat them almost like salespeople, right? For us internally, they have goals. They have all the tools that they need to do their job, whether it's CRM systems or other tools that they have to be effective with their day. And we challenge them. Amanda, for example, her book of business is about 200 farmers, and I think she's got about 160,000 acres that she manages of annual enrollment. And that's a challenge. You talk to a USDA field service center person, that is a lot of acres and a lot of farmers for one person to deal with. But when you have the systems and the tools and you give those people the resources, it's possible, and they can do it. We've shown it. The other thing is we do have a data platform that helps us organize things, but if farmers don't want to use it, they don't have to. We can streamline that process for them and make it super easy. They also mentioned the payment, the 2 installments that we have. I think that's huge. We can't just push all of the risk, both financial and performance, onto farmers and expect them to absorb yet another risk factor in their production system. So what we do is we pay annual installments twice. So as soon as they sign their contract, which is typically in August or September, they'll get a first check that might help them with some of the cover crop costs. And then after we do verification the next year, they get the second half of the check. So we don't make them wait for that funding. We give them some upfront dollars to help fray some of the costs that they have. So meeting farmers where they're at with people, technical assistance, streamlining enrollment, and providing financial assistance kind of early on are those keys that we try to strive to provide to farmers.
And then if you could reflect on what are the most common ways you see implementing partners, companies getting it wrong? We got 23 minutes. Yeah.
I might need 24. The whole greenhouse gas accounting world right now has really got me worried, to be honest. And I see some companies potentially taking it too far, where you're requiring implementers to do so much, collect so much, bear so much risk, have so much permanence and years out guarantees. Those aren't things that we can do. They can't do those things either. So at the end of the day, if those requirements are so stringent, we're not going to be in a good position. So we need to find ways that our accounting procedures, our measurement procedures work for farmers. And I see that as a potential risk down the road, especially with some of the things related to greenhouse gas accounting.
What I heard you say was progress over perfection. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. There we go. So Ryan, I want to come back to a point you made about how, there's some people that they're just not interested in getting into new practices, right? Help me understand, well, both from you, Ryan, and from you, Pallin. I mean, those are people that you go to church with, right? Those are people you see a lot of, every day. I mean, help understand, what's standing in the way, right? I mean, is it a trust gap? Is it a resource gap? As you think through the folks that you work with, they're just I'm just not interested. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a loaded question also. Yeah. I would say it's not resources, because the changes we've made on our farm we do more with less, basically. So that's not it. It's more, so we're very stubborn people and, not always willing to make changes. And well, my dad did it this way. My grandpa did it this way. What we do is also a very risky business. So what I mean by that is, we bury all of our nickels in the ground each year and hope that a dime grows, right? And there's certain ways that that's done that, we know that this works. So I'm already taking enough risk. Why would I change my practices and take a yield cut or something along those lines? It just more comes down to either you're open to change or you're not. And if you're not, that's okay. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just a different way of thinking. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that some people aren't willing to maybe think about letting go of something that they wouldn't have control of. So what do I have to give you for my land? You know, I've worked all this for so many years, and now you want to tell me how and why, or this is what we're going to do, and they're scared. They don't want to give that up. Like he said, it's a gamble every day. Sometimes we could probably go to Vegas and it'd be easier. but you don't want to. We'll never do it because we've been there. And I think that's how farmers feel. They all do. We're tied to the land. We value it. We respect it. And we don't want to give up the freedom of it's ours, and we've worked hard and paid for it, just because you also need a partnership with us. And they're scared of it. I think that's a big deal.
I mean, just listening to you both talk, you know, I relate that to the way we think about, you know, working with partners like Adam and team, and the way we think about providing support. So there's usually 3 pillars, right? There's a financial component to it. You're asking me to do something that costs more money. I need to be compensated for that, or at least if I'm not being made whole, it needs the help. There's typically an agronomic dimension. I want to know, how does this practice bear out on my field with my specific soil conditions, all of that. And then just hearing you guys talk, we spend a lot of time internally and, you know, working with Adam and team, thinking about the human dimension, right? It's just, I want to learn from somebody, maybe a county over or a field over, who's been doing this for a while. And it sounds to me like it's more that human dimension for this cohort that's a little bit more stubborn that's needed than any sort of financial or agronomic assistance. Does that feel right to you guys? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, obviously, it's financial sustainability is being financially stable enough to be sustainable, you know, down the road for another 20 years or whatever, 10, 5. It can go on and on. But I do think that it's very much a human thing.
Yeah. And then Adam, I mean, as our implementing partner, like, how do we solve for that, you know?
That's a question. Yeah, that's a tough one. And you know, in Iowa too, you've got other dynamics at play, right? You've got land tenure. I asked these 2 over lunch how many landlords they have, and I think, Ryan, you said 7 different landlords maybe, and you said 5, I think. You know, those landowners in Iowa, non-farmer landowners account for about 75% of the land, roughly. And those landowners might have different motives, right? I think both of you have ones that are really financially motivated, maybe more so than sustainability. So, you know, it's not always just the farmer making those decisions or having a role in the decision making, but there's others that are in the agricultural system that influence what changes or what doesn't.
Yeah. That's really helpful. And a lot of it comes down to trust and readiness to make change, right? Yeah. And some folks are and some folks aren't. A question for all 3 of you to reflect on, and this is sort of parochial for me because I work at a company. Like, how do you think about the role of private sector players like ours, right? And not just a company like PepsiCo, but any partner in the value chain, whether that would be a retailer or somebody else that's part of this food system that we talk about. I mean, how can we best enable the transition? How can we best sort of enable that readiness to make change? We'll start with you, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, really, I think it's learning about what works locally, and each region, each sourcing region for you all probably has different dynamics, right? If I think about some of the growing regions that we work in, when we work in sugar beets in North Dakota and Minnesota, that's a totally different conversation than talking about cover crops in a corn-soybean rotation in Iowa. Same with wheat and the different cropping systems. So the best thing that you all can do is learn and understand kind of what has the most impact locally and try to support that, and not try to put a uniform implementer across all of your sourcing regions. And, you know, we'd love to help you in the areas we do, but we know that we're not right for potato growing, right? There's others that are have expertise in that area. So know when it's right, and make sure you branch out and look for those other implementers who have expertise when it's needed.
Yeah. Pallin, Ryan, same question.
Well, I think a lot of it starts with perception. and its perception of like what I'm doing on my farm compared to my neighbors. You know, like there's things that we've done on our farm that I've had friends tell me, well, there's no way that'll work. It's like, well, why not? Have you tried it? I haven't tried it. You know, let's see what happens. Let's try something different and maybe something will stick. Maybe it'll fail miserably and we won't do it again, but at least you'll know, right? And the other side of the perception is just public perception. You know, as we talked earlier, we're all trying to do what we think is best. And when you see a lot of news articles or whatever else, you know, usually it's a sprayer going through the field or fertilizer being put down. You know, we're not using any more of this stuff than we possibly have to because it's very expensive and we don't want to waste it. So, and that goes back to just doing what we feel is best on our own operations. But, you know, just getting in front of people and kind of sharing the story of farming and agriculture is really just the best way to get ahead of anything. It's just, you know, share the truth and not just what you might read somewhere or what can be said behind a screen, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really good too. I think we just have to work together as it all comes from the dirt. It starts at the dirt and it works its way up. And I think if we can all work together and help each other, then it can be sustainable for everybody. That's the word today, right? That we're supposed to be here for, sustainability.
That is a great answer. And Ryan, I want to come back to something that you said earlier when you talked about, you know, participating in the SWAF program or our program it mattered to you that it was private sector, right, as opposed to something else. You know, we spend a lot of time in policy circles talking about this concept of demand signals, right? It's just a fancy word that means there's a market for it, somebody's going to pay for it, right? Like help me unpack more for you, like what that meant and like why you felt more confident participating in our program as opposed to something else because of the demand signal.
Okay. So one thing I liked, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. I talked about long-term thoughts, but I also like the fact that what we do is on a one-year contract. So, you know, we're taking on risk to try something different on our farms and our fields, but we're also taking on risk signing up all of our information, all of our data with a company that we really don't know at first, you know? And so the fact that it is a one-year deal allows us both to try each other out to see if it's a good fit. And if it doesn't, well, 12 months down the road, you part ways and, you know, shake hands, say thank you. But obviously this is a different situation. It's worked out very well. But we've all gotten into things, no matter what business it is, where, you know, you get into something thinking it's great and look behind the curtain and it's like, oh, I can't wait for this thing to get over. So that was a big selling point for me, was the fact that you can try it and, you know, no harm, no foul next time sign up comes around.
Yeah, I think that's really good too. And it was simple. I mean, that is really the nicest thing about it. There wasn't a huge thing to it. And when she came to talk to us, she sat down at our table, explained it all out. This is what we're going to do. These are the processes, and this is what you have to do to participate. And it was pretty cut and dried. That's huge, not to be locked up for a long time if it doesn't work out. So I also think that is a plus to this program is, and you're willing to change a few things, make it better if it isn't working, and that was great. And to come out and talk to us about it, you know, to work with us at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
That's where it happens.
And I want to add one
Yeah,
thing
please.
real quick. So just to put that in comparison, like I said, I would look around for a couple, 3 years before I would try any of this stuff. And there was 3 other companies that I was possibly going with at that time. One was a 10-year contract, one was a 5-year contract, and one was a 3-year contract. So that's where I'm going with the fact that 1 year at a time is kind of mutually beneficial. So
Yeah, no, that's great. Make it simple, make it easy. That seems to be a big part of the secret sauce, which shouldn't be that secret, right? Yeah, Adam, I just appreciate you reflecting on that, just because you have a lot of experience and history working both with public sector programs and with sort of private sector companies, to sort of make these programs come to life on the ground. Just based on the farmers, the clients that you work with, like, is this a pretty similar story? Like, how do they think about engaging with private sector with companies like ours? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we hear good and bad stories,
Yeah.
right? I think it's a space that's evolving. Programs are figuring out what works, what doesn't. Companies are figuring that out. So I'd say it's farmers are learning, and you're going to hear more stories, and unfortunately, you're going to hear some bad stories, right? We just talked about one over lunch where a farmer signed up for a program and probably was feeling like it was too good to be true, and it was. Didn't work out for him. So those stories are out there. I hope they don't damage farmers' willingness to participate down the road. But there are some good and bad stories. One of the things when we started SWAF that I wanted to strive to have was a farmer could apply one day and a day or two later be under contract. That doesn't seem like something too outrageous to expect in today's world. But in agriculture, especially in conservation, that was a stretch, and we've reached that now,
Yes.
And we can deliver that to farmers. I think that's huge. Just that simple application process, turn around and have a contract in their email 2 days later is huge. And I think just simple things like that go a long way with farmers.
Easy, simple, trust building. It makes too much sense. Yep, that's right. To bring it back a little bit to, one of the main reasons we're here, sort of policy work, big climate change conference in Brazil next month. I mean, what I love about the work that your program does is that you've delivered results. And look, the fact that you've delivered such great results was a big part of why you're being lifted up as one of the best examples in the world of how we make public-private partnerships come to life. I mean, from your perspective, Adam, like, what do you think are the key policy implications of the work that you do through SWAF means?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm coming off a period in time of working through a climate smart agreement. And I oftentimes have a bit of frustration because I think there's so much we could accomplish. There's so much opportunity with agriculture and with farmers. And I think that collective we are missing huge opportunities to do more and do it faster. And policy-wise, I think if we could figure out how to partner together, and maybe that's a theme of our world today, is how do we work better together? I think we could accomplish so much more. And whether that's two companies working together or a company and a government working together, I think there's lessons to be learned there about working together to scale. And we're not doing that good enough today at many levels. And I think we need to do better. And if we do, I think we could unlock a lot. I know we at SWAF could do a lot more. We work with about a quarter of the farmers who express interest in working with us. And I wish we could work with 100%, but we don't have the financial support to work with 100%. We've got the financial support to work with 25% today. But how do we turn that into every farmer interested is a participant? Yeah. That's the day I want to get to.
Count us in to be a part of that conversation for sure. I mean, we're already there. So the analog of that question for both you, Pallin, and Ryan is, again, bringing this back to Belém in Brazil. We talked a little bit about this, when we were huddling beforehand, but, farmers by and large, they don't have a big voice in Brazil in these big climate change conferences. And so we view that as kind of part of our role is like, how can we help bring that voice or bring that perspective? As you think through the convenings, the meetings, the discussions that are going to happen down there, I mean, what's one message you would want to deliver to global policymakers from the farm back in Iowa?
That's going to take more than, I don't, I gotta do a little brainstorming on that one. Oh my goodness. I don't know what I would say. This is a pretty big group for Ryan and I to talk in front of. I don't know. Go, Ryan.
So you've said simplicity a couple times, right? So we'll keep it about as simple as we possibly can. You guys can all do the talking, and we'll do the work. How about that?
Yeah.
I like that.
We just work the dirt.
Yeah.
And
We aren't the, but I do think that working together is going to be the key. And not too many policies. Let's say simpler policies to do the work we all should do together that's sustainable for everybody. And the change could be huge, like you said. And I do know that there's a lot of people that have asked us about that can't enroll because you're full. The program is full for the financial ability that you're at right now. So if you could get more financial ability, which there again, I'm not just saying, like he said, we're going to do it anyway, but not everybody's going to do it. And if you really want to make a big change, we have to have a little bit of financial part of it also. So you have to get some more financial ability to make it happen and get more people involved at the global level too, not just in Iowa. We're a small part of what could happen.
The other thing I'll add to that is, it sounds crazy and simple, but have some farm visits for some of these people. You know, I don't know about anybody in this room, but I mean, a large percentage of people in this country don't even know where their food comes from. So, and that goes back to the education process. But, you know, come out to one of our farms. Let us clean up a little bit first, but come out to one of our farms and, you know, we'll show you what we're doing and we'll tell you why we're doing it. Because we can sit up here on the stage and talk about it, but, you know, let us show you what we're doing and give you the why behind it. And then things become a lot more clear.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, anytime you can show them what it looks like in real life, it makes a huge difference. Well, we've got 3 minutes left. I want to end on an optimistic note, right? What makes you hopeful about the future of the work that you do, like where we're headed as in agriculture generally? I'd just love for you guys just to reflect on where you think we're headed.
Well, you know, as farmers, a lot of us are complainers. We're known for that, but we're also very optimistic people. I came across an old successful farming magazine when I was cleaning out my grandparents' house a couple years ago. And there's a lot of problems in the world today, and we all know that. But thumbing through this magazine, it's the same articles that are in the magazines today. You know, and we're still here, and we're still doing this, and we're doing it better. So, you know, we just put our faith in the processes that we're doing. And I mean, I'm selfish here, but I believe we have the best job in the world. And we're all very proud of what we do, along with being stubborn. But, you know, the future is very bright. It's as bright as you want it to be, you know, and you just got to get up every morning and go to work and know that one little difference today can make a big difference 1, 5, 10, 15 years from now.
He did good.
you want me to go? Okay.
He's right.
Oh, so you're letting Ryan speak for you. That's great. Good. What I'm optimistic about is, you know, just to be honest, we've had some turmoil in our program over the past 8 months with everything that's been going on. I won't go into that. But still, at the end of the day, farmers want to participate. And I think that's a great testament to the, maybe we're onto something. But at the end of the day, if we can have farmers that raise their hand, they want to participate, they want to change, they want to add these practices, be more sustainable, whatever that means for them, and that's going to mean something different, but that they want to participate today, that's optimistic to me. And I'm excited about that, and I look forward to the future.
Yeah. And I think to wrap it up and bring it back to where, you know, Jason left us, I mean, count on the private sector being there with you guys. I mean, we are in this for the long haul. We're not a fly-by-night company. We've been around for a long time. And we view farmers as critical to our business, and just count on us to keep leading this work. Count on us to keep driving those conversations wherever policymakers are at, because we know it's the right thing to do, and it's good for our business. Right? That's it. Well, please, a round of applause for our panel here. Thank you all.